Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius was one of the last great Roman emperors, and he was the only one who was also a philosopher. He was born in 121 and lived until 180. He is best known for his series of challenging spiritual reflections and exercises that he developed as he struggled to understand himself and make sense of the universe around him. His writings were never intended to be published, as it was more of a journal of his own personal reflections and experiences. He is one of the best known ancient Stoic philosophers. But what exactly is Stoicism? So Stoicism teaches a variety of things, focusing primarily on matters such as how to keep a calm and rational mind, how to master one's emotions, and how to stop oneself from being controlled by the desire for material pleasure or the fear of pain or judgment. So, in the past, there have been three main Stoic philosophers that have done the most to shape and develop the idea of Stoicism. The first of which was Marcus Aurelius, next came Epictetus, and finally Seneca. Today we'll be focusing on Marcus Aurelius and his work called Meditations. As we have already discussed, this was a collection of his profound observations and reflections intended for spiritual development and meditative purposes. The first key theme of the book is the power of the mind and how it can be harnessed to lead to a life of happiness. Aurelius states that you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Our mind is our biggest asset if we learn how to control it. The good life stems from one having mastery over the mind as opposed to so-called mastery of the external world. For example, the possession of wealth, material objects, and fame. It is the external goods that come and go outside of our control. So if we were to stake our happiness upon any one of them, then we would give up control over our lives. However, if we learn to control our mind, then we can regain control of our lives. Following on from this, Aurelius writes, if your distress has some external cause, it is not the thing in itself that troubles you, but your own judgment of it, and you can erase this immediately. This reinforces the idea of the power that our mind can have over any situation if we use it in the right way. Here, Aurelius tells us that distress is caused by our mind and our ill-informed judgment of the situation. However, if we can seek to change our judgment, or perhaps even remove it altogether, then we will be able to relieve ourselves of the potential distress and anxiety that may have otherwise followed. If we change the way that we perceive situations, then it is this that can lead us to a happy life. Aurelius states that the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. However, many people's quality of thought is disrupted from not being able to live in the present moment. They become paranoid over future possibilities or dwell on past events. And so it is important for us to continuously remind ourselves to live in the present and make the best of all that we have in the current moment. Now we will look at some examples of how we can transform our thinking so that our life can be filled with genuine happiness and peace. The first example, why complain about something that has already happened? No amount of whining or complaining will reverse it from happening. So just accept it and move on, or you can resist it and make the strain twice as bad. The second example, do not dream of possession of what you do not have. Rather, reflect on the greatest blessings in what you do have, and on their account, remind yourself how much they would have been missed if they were not there. But at the same time, you must be careful not to let your pleasure in them habituate you to dependency, to avoid distress if they are sometimes absent. Also, the perspective that obstacles are there so that we have the privilege to learn from our mistakes. Similarly, when anything bad happens, it is important not to get wrapped up in angry judgment or neurotic thoughts about the event, but instead we need to search for the underlying lesson. The next major theme of the book is how one should deal with the opinions of others. Aurelius begins by telling us not to worry ourselves over what others may think of us. Here is one of his suggestions. When another blames you or hates you, or people voice similar criticisms, go to their souls, penetrate inside, and see what sort of people they are. You will realize that there is no need to be racked with anxiety, that they should hold any particular opinion about you. This tells us that no one truly successful will ever critique you. Those who are truly successful will not be spending their time whining about you and critiquing your every move. They will be spending their time on pursuing something much more significant and meaningful. Successful people may give you constructive advice, but certainly not any petty and childish judgments on you and your character. From this, it follows that we must be careful whose approval we seek, because we need to make sure that those who we rely on for approval and advice are able to relate genuinely to our struggle and have a thorough understanding of what it means to live a good life. We should be wary of those who are neurotic with judgment, and also those who are followed by a looming cloud of pessimism that will rain down maliciously on anyone that they come into contact with. We must surround ourselves with people who will help us grow and achieve our goals that we have set in life. Our duty is to stand straight, not to be held straight by the approval of others. Even though others may disagree with us when we choose our own path, we need to be courageous enough to stand straight and be truthful to ourselves despite the rejection and judgment that it's almost inevitable to follow when one chooses their own path. However, it is important that we remind ourselves not to judge others and become the very thing that we are trying to avoid. It was said by Aurelius that the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. Furthermore, we need to remember to stay humble and always be willing to learn. Aurelius gives us his own view on the matter. If someone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake in any thought or action, I shall gladly change. I seek the truth, which never harmed anyone. The harm is to persist in one's own self-deception and ignorance. The final sentence is very significant and reminds us not to be close-minded and arrogant. It is a characteristic of the virtuous man to always remain open-minded in every situation. It is easy for us to be outraged at others when they perform a bad action, but it is extremely important that we look inside ourselves and our own capacity to do the same. This will ensure that we truly understand who we are and that we too are not wholly perfect, but we also have evil inside of us. Once we understand this, it is much easier to be aware of it in our actions, and we can also control it instead of it controlling us. We need to recognize that not everyone is wholly perfect or wholly evil. Everyone has a mixture of the two. The final theme explored in the book is that of death and its looming and inevitable presence, and the transitory, or non-permanent, nature of existence. Observe always that everything is the result of change, and get used to thinking that there is nothing nature loves so well as to change existing forms and to make new ones like them. Change is natural, and we should be able to anticipate loss. Since change is so universal, it is important that we latch onto nothing and embrace everything. By not clinging to what we have, we are better able to anticipate its inevitable degradation or loss, and so we can appreciate it much more fully whilst we still have it. This applies to the example of wealth. Following on from this, we must accept that all things will soon perish. One of his seemingly more nihilistic quotes, "Soon you will have forgotten all things. Soon all things will have forgotten you." This reinforces the universality of change, but we still must perform each action as if it were the last of our lives. For example, when seeing a friend, remember that this may be the last time you will ever see them. Having this in the back of your mind can really help us appreciate the moment and become more present in our interactions with other people. Although death may seem daunting to us, Aurelius reminds us that it is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. Thank you for watching, and please leave a like and subscribe. I'll see you next time on Feeling Philosophical, and goodbye.